In this video, I want to share the story of Nezha from Chinese mythology. Actually, I previously mentioned Nezha in my video about Sun Wukong being imprisoned by the heavenly realm, where I described the fierce battle between them. This time, I'll explain Nezha's origins and birth. As it turns out, Nezha wasn't originally a Chinese deity. I'll also compare his story with the recent popular movie Nezha to see what changes they made in the adaptation. Interestingly, Nezha first appeared in ancient Indian Buddhist legends as a guardian deity. In Buddhism, guardian deities are like protective angels, responsible for shielding believers from evil forces. Back then, Nezha didn't look like the adorable little hero we know today. He had a terrifying appearance with 3 heads, 6 arms, and carried various weapons, specializing in fighting demons and monsters. When Buddhism spread to China, Nezha came along with it, but at that time, he didn't have much of a detailed backstory. He was more like a tour deity, used to frighten bad people. As Nezha took root in Chinese cultural soil, he gradually transformed. His name simplified from the complex Sanskrit original to the Nezha we know today, a name that still sounds unusual to Chinese ears and has different pronunciations across regions. Over time, ancient Chinese novelists began to localize Nezha, much like how Disney reinterprets classic fairy tales. They wove rich backstories for him and reshaped his image. Taoism also took interest in this foreign deity and decided to incorporate him into the pantheon, giving him more legendary experiences. To accomplish this, writers exercised the imagination, continuously enriching Nezha's storyline and thoroughly synthesizing him. They transformed him from a weak guardian deity into a fully fledged protagonist with depth and character. This process was somewhat like writing a new script for an established character while adding many cool new elements. And so, Nezha's story began to unfold. Nezha was actually the reincarnation of Spirit Pearl, belonging to the Taoist supreme deity, the Primordial Heavenly Lord. You can think of this Spirit Pearl as a magical jewel with extraordinary powers. Taoism has 3 supreme deities. I previously mentioned the Supreme Lord Lao, Taishan Lao Jun, when discussing Sun Wukong. But now we're talking about another one, the Primordial Heavenly Lord, Yuanshi Tianzun. These aren't just Taoist supreme gods, they are the absolute top-tier bosses in Chinese mythology. Many mythological stories revolve around them and are intricately connected to them. For example, the well-known god Alangshen Yang, a divine warrior of the heavenly realm, was actually a grand disciple of the Primordial Heavenly Lord, with all his abilities passed down from the great deity's disciple. Interestingly, Nezha and Alangshen were disciples of the same generation, making them essentially classmates. As this magical Jew, Nezha was reincarnated into the family of a human general named Jing, whose wife Lady Yin would become Nezha's mother because Nezha was the divine spirit reborn. His mother's pregnancy wasn't the normal 9 months. She carried him for a full 3 years. In mythology, such extraordinary pregnancy durations typically foreshadow an exceptional destiny. When Nezha was born, the delivery room wasn't filled with the smell of blood, but rather a strange fragrance. Instead of a baby, what emerged was a ball of flesh wrapped in red energy. His father, Jing, thinking it was some kind of monster, drew his sword and sliced open the flesh ball. Inside was an adorable child, as delicate as a porcelain doll, with a golden bracelet on his right wrist that shone brilliantly, and a piece of red silk wrapped around his waist. Remarkably, he could walk immediately after birth and possessed various miraculous abilities. This extraordinary child born with divine powers was Nezha, and the 2 magical items that accompanied his birth were the Qiankun and Huntian Ling. These 2 treasures had significant origins, but before explaining them, let's return to the Primordial Heavenly Lord I mentioned earlier. This Taoist supreme deity had 12 core disciples, one of whom was called Taiyi Zhenren. Long before Nezha was reincarnated, when he was still a spirit pearl in heaven, Taiyi Zhenren was particularly fond of him. They secretly made an agreement. After Nezha was reborn in the human world, he would become Taiyi Zhenren's disciple. Taiyi Zhenren would personally teach him magic and protect him as he grew up. The Qiankun and Huntian Ling were actually Taiyi Zhenren's magical treasures, given to Nezha as birth gifts. A few days later, Taiyi Zhenren arrived at General Li Jing's residence and, as planned, took Nezha as his disciple. As Nezha grew up, despite his extraordinary talents, his father Li Jing didn't like him. Li Jing thought Nezha's birth as a flesh ball was too strange and worried he would bring disaster to the family. Moreover, Li Jing was a traditional military man who followed rules and obeyed orders. Nezha, however, was naturally rebellious, adventure-loving, and acted on instinct without considering consequences. The conflict between father and son deepened. Li Jing thought Nezha was too defiant, while Nezha felt misunderstood by his father. This family tension would only intensify later on. In the modern film Nezha, the director completely reimagined this relationship. The movie's Nezha is still a rebellious child, but rather than simply being a troubled teen, he's portrayed as a misunderstood hero. Film Li Jing isn't the cold father from the original story, but a devoted dad who quietly sacrifices for his son. In Nezha, the boy is treated as a monster by villagers from an early age, feared and rejected by everyone. But Li Jing consistently believes in his son, even willing to exchange his own life for Nezha's safety. This expression of fatherly love shows us a woman, Li Jing. Next comes the story of Nezha's conflict with the Dragon King, which leads to his sacrificial suicide. I'll continue sharing this in my next video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and support my channel.